This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 142 is brought to us by Bybit. I think I've seen this week more signups and more deposits than I have ever seen. I'm not sure what took you guys so long, but again, who doesn't want to sit there and earn Bitcoin worth $68,000 to $70,000? In a way, it does make sense. So to all of you, I would say welcome. You can do damn near anything you want on Bybit now that you're a part of it. Plus, there are so many promotions. I have put those promotions in the blog. I will keep that as up to date as I possibly can. You can find the blog in the show notes. It'll keep you up to date on everything. And at the very bottom of that blog, for those who don't know, that's where you're going to find my affiliate link. That affiliate link opens the door to everything. So sign up and get on board. It's never too late because with Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and I said last week that we would be pivoting away from crypto because we spent so much time on it, and we do invest in other things here, believe it or not. Yet in the past week, I have come up with what I think is going to be a really great crypto episode. It was going to be a blog, but it's one of those things where the blog was going to be so long, I'm like, let's just turn this into a podcast episode. It would probably be better. So expect that in the next few weeks, but apart from that, we're going to be focusing on other things for sure. Because as I say all the time on the show, I've said it a lot recently, and it sounds like I'm really patting myself on the back, but that's not the point. I think you guys know that. I only like to buy things when they are cheap. And you may have noticed in these past 4 or 5 weeks or so when crypto is running like crazy, I wasn't buying anything. You know why? Because I already bought it. You buy when things are cheap, and then when they run up like crazy, you just sit there and watch it and enjoy and get ready to take profit if it applies. You know, this is our reward for sitting there and being patient when things were bad and getting laughed at and buying these things when it did not feel good to buy them. But then, when our time comes, and it always comes, we get to sit back and reap the rewards. It's great, but step one in that process is buying when things are cheap and unloved and hated. And you should feel absolutely gross when you buy them. That's how you know you're doing this correctly. And so episode 142 is going to be about what I am personally buying now. Feel free to go to YouTube and go to the comments section because we do broadcast this podcast on YouTube. And let me know what else you're buying as well. Is it crypto? Is it one of the big board stocks? Is it something we almost never talk about on this show? Or is it what I'm about to talk about today? So first off, and I mentioned this on Twitter, as the price of these uranium mining stocks drop, I still personally feel like they're undervalued, and I am adding on. I'm not adding on a lot because, as you guys know, I already bought pretty early, but kind of like I did with Bitcoin right around 28K, and I tweeted about that as well. It's kind of nice. When you put everything out there on the record, nobody can call bullshit on you. But I bought a little more because what I'm doing, what I did then is the same thing I'm doing now. I'm trying to get that last little bit in for the big run up. I also did the same with crypto tokens like Chainlink and Avalanche and IMX. Because again, when that run up happens, I'm not going to be buying anymore. I want to be mostly all in by then. So uranium mining stocks have been one thing I've been buying, but the other thing I've been buying more of, and I haven't mentioned this on Twitter, but I have talked about the underlying assets, and that is precious metal mining stocks. For a couple reasons. One, they are still extremely discounted because they are extremely hated right now because they have not been going up with the price of gold and silver. Now, their all-in sustaining costs have also gone up. Inflation has hit them, and so they're not making money hand over fist like we would expect them to with higher precious metal prices. But that certainly doesn't mean they won't later on. And a lot of these companies are making very good money. And the most important thing that's going on right now when it comes to these mining stocks, to me, is the price of gold. If you don't know, and if you don't know, that's okay, actually, because nobody's been talking about it. Gold has made new all-time highs and has remained there for a while. It was playing with all-time highs for a good 3 months and just never quite got there, and recently it has. And it has been doing so in the most ninja way possible. Because understand, even though the price of gold has been going up and is now hitting new highs, there have been nothing but outflows coming out of gold ETFs in the United States for the past 11 months, and this has not stopped. How can this be? If all of these people are selling by coming out of these ETFs, who's buying? The answer is smart money. The type of smart money that doesn't use ETFs, let's just say that. I really want to follow what they do, by the way. And also desperate people in China. Now, this is mostly on the heels of a couple things, really, but mainly the most recent thing has been something called the Shanghai Premium. The Shanghai Gold Exchange is the largest gold exchange in China, and there is a difference now, a pretty measurable difference between the price of gold there and the price of gold almost everywhere else. Because if you also didn't know, China is in a recession, and nobody in China wants to have their money in China, controlled by the Communist Party. You know, years ago, people in the United States and Canada would complain, especially on the west coast of those countries, that the Chinese were coming up and buying up all the real estate. Well, the reason they were doing that is, we've talked about this on the show before. When a rich or even a middle-class Chinaman wakes up nowadays, their one goal from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed is to get their money out of China, to find a way. Because on the other side, the CCP sees this. They don't want this to happen. They want money to stay in China. So whenever one of these routes opens, they come in and immediately close it. And then the options for these citizens to get their money out of China just becomes less and less and less. But they've always been able to buy gold. Everybody. At least everybody who has the means to do it. And that's what they're doing right now. They are flocking to it. Because what do you know? Gold is still the place that people turn to in a crisis. Gold and the United States dollar. So what I think is even happening right now is what you're seeing with gold and with the United States stock market is very similar to Brett Johnson's dollar milkshake theory, which I absolutely subscribe to where everything is going to get so bad everywhere else that everybody's going to funnel in to the United States, and then eventually, the United States market is going to fall apart too, and maybe someday the United States dollar, even though I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But we're seeing a version of this happen right now due to recessions around the world. Look, Europe's going through this too. Let's say you are an investment advisor in the Netherlands, and you see your market going into recession, but you still need to find alpha for your clients. They're still going to expect that. That's what they pay you for. Where are you going to go? Investment advisors don't go into gold because they can't make any money there. There's no commission. They are going to go to the United States stock market. They're like, well, we're dying over here, but over there in the United States, the NASDAQ's making new highs. NVIDIA's going crazy. Amazon's doing really well. Meta's doing well. What the hell am I doing here when I can be over there? And China did this too. You remember the China Restarts episode? You know how nothing actually restarted? Do you guys know why? I've said it on this podcast. They took $1 trillion that was supposed to go into Chinese infrastructure. And instead, most of those dirty fucks took that money and put it into the United States stock market. Did not put it into China. They just invested it in the evil empire known as the United States. People sit back and are like, man, why is the United States economy so unstoppable right now? Well, stuff like this certainly doesn't hurt. The world's a big place, and they're not going to look at their economies and go down with a ship. They're going to put it somewhere else. And so it's for this reason. And with all the central banks buying in the last couple of years, it's not like they're buying that gold to trade it. They are sitting on it. They're not sellers. They're all holders at this point. So I think wherever the floor is for the price of gold, it's gotten a lot higher than it was in the past. And when it comes to my precious metals mining stocks, I really like that. Now, what will happen in a recession? Let's say the recession happens earlier than I think it is. I think it's going to happen right after the election. But what's going to happen to mining stocks? Well, initially they might drop even further, and that'll be a great opportunity to pick up more, in my opinion. But it might not because, look, I don't think gold is going down a whole lot. In a recession, gold is only going to go higher over time. Oil prices typically drop, which is very good for the miners. We might have to eat a little bit of pain. We might not. So I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to get in now. And one thing I will say to that point, and I did a whole episode on this. Can't remember if it was a blog or a podcast episode. It was a podcast episode. I am going to be slowly moving, not moving all the way, but slowly moving out of Mexico when it comes to precious metal mining stocks, in particular on the silver side. I did put out a tweet as a story from mining.com that talked about the president of Mexico, Luis Obrador, also known as AMLO, coming out with a proclamation saying that he wants to, I don't know if this passed or not, I need to look it up, I don't think it did, I would know, that he wants to ban open pit mining in Mexico, which is no small thing. So there's two main types of silver and gold mines out there. There's open pit and then, your underground mines. Now, I think what AMLO was referring to was banning new open pit mines, but that article didn't state that. He could be talking about current open pit mines in Mexico, to which there are many, to which there are entire communities who rely heavily on these mines. That's why I just assumed he meant new mines, and that's also why I don't think this would pass. But I do know that if he's coming out saying things like this, then Mexico is going in the wrong direction when it comes to mining. And for what it's worth, his term is up this year. But word on the street is the person who is ahead in the polls right now, it's this Jewish woman. She is more or less just a clone of AMLO. So expect the same going forward. Again, it could be nothing, but I don't like that. And if I'm going to buy something new, then I would just assume it not being in Mexico. Now, problem is, most of your silver mines are there, or most of your silver mining companies have some kind of exposure to Mexico. So you're going to need to know what is available outside of there, and are those places any good? And so the way I do that is something I've recommended to you guys for years now, Don Durrett's newsletter and website. It is, so DONDURRETT. He's over at goldstockdata.com, and he has analyzed every single stock out there. And you get a lot more information than just that. It's in the low 100s a year. To me, it is still the best value out there in terms of paid research. You might be able to just close your eyes and put your money into a gold or silver junior, and it may just rise with the overall market. But again, we're in this for the long term. We want mines with, good capital and good founders and good deposits. And that's really hard to know without doing a lot of research. So I just skip to the front of the line. I put my $100 and something down every year. And then I always have a pretty good idea of where I'm going. Because look, right now, nobody wants to buy gold and silver mining stocks. Not even people who currently hold gold and silver mining stocks. Even with gold being as strong as it has ever been. These stocks are absolutely hated. And that's exactly why I am buying. There is a sweet divergence going on right now, and I just can't ignore it. Same thing happened a year ago in crypto when we started buying it again. When it comes to the overall economy, everything we've been talking about for the last few years is finally really starting to feel tangible around the world. Everything is slowly coming apart at the seams. Most of the world is already in a recession, and I want to have all of my bags packed before it goes full on global. And that includes gold and silver mining stocks. If you buy them right now, it's going to feel bad. You might be 24 years old buying these things, and your friends are calling you an out-of-touch boomer, and then the stocks go down even further. And then you feel crazy for buying them in the first place. But let me tell you, sir, madam, you are not crazy. You are just early.